Hello everybody from the second round of Riga Technical University Open 2024. Today we have a double round, so we are starting early in the morning, the first one, and going through the games together with you. The same like yesterday will be Women International Master Anna Kantane.
And Grandmaster Tom's Kantāns. Welcome everybody from Riga. Yes, as you see, the players are already there. A very exciting round yesterday, round one, already with a lot of upsets, a lot of draws. Not that many resultative games in favor of lower-rated opponents, but we still did have an upset on board 5. Lower-rated opponent won against Kazakowski from Lithuania. So it was a rating difference of over 400 points, and we had a win by a low-rated opponent. Let's see if today still we are going to see some interesting results. I'm sure we will, but probably we should take a look at the pairings to see what is waiting for us today.
And speaking about the upsets in general, what does it mean? I actually don't recall, I've taken part in this tournament probably every edition in some form, either as a commentator or as the participant, and I think in the first round there happened to be some draws, but I really can't remember any time when there was an upset on the top board. So this is really a big thing when one of the top grandmasters actually do lose in the first round, and that is why we are pointing it out like that.
I think actually we did have, I think Alexander Salna, he won, but I'm not sure. I think it was the first round as well. So sometimes it happens, but yes, it is really rare. And now here are the pairings for round 2 of today. The players started at 11 local time, and just to mention, still coming back to this upset yesterday, the game was going till 11 p.m., something like this. It was incredibly long game, so they had just around 12 hours to sleep to get over the game and get ready for today. So it wasn't really that much time. And yeah, on board 1 we still have the top seed Nicolas Theodorou from Greece, and he is playing with the opponent from all the way from Malaysia. So that is really incredible that here in Riga we have players from really all over the world. You see all those flags by the names. That's incredible to see. So Suoren Lim is going to play against the top seed on the board 1.
And if yesterday is any indicator, then board 2 should be also a big clash, since both of the Chinese players that we saw playing yesterday on top boards, they put up a very impressive fight, and while being lower rated there was a draw and a win from them against much higher rated opponents. And today we see on board 2 Zhou Yifan, who is much lower rated than his opponent Kacper Puran, but I would not be surprised to see another impressive display there if those two guys from yesterday are an indicator of how strong is actually the delegation from China here.
9 players from China this year in Riga. That is really great to see. Of course, both reigning world champions are currently from China, Ding Liren and Zhu Wenjun. So we know that they are incredibly strong, and it is really nice to see them here. That can be a very interesting game, as Tom's mentioned. On third board, Safarli against Sai Agni. Here is already GM against an IM, even though with the black pieces we have a lower rated opponent, but he has an international master title, so he has a big class. And on the fourth board, Tirelli from Italy against Pultinevicius, and fifth board Laurusas Basilius. So those are the top 5 boards. I think those are the ones that we should be focusing on, but is there something that you see in the pairings that you think we should also pay attention to?
Well, we'll probably pay attention, take a look if there are some interesting fights on the top women players taking part in the event. So on the board 8 we see Heinemann Josephine playing against Procházka Peter, and on board 11 we have the best Latvian female player Roguli Laura playing against top Estonian player Kulauts Kaido.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned it. So you will keep an eye on female players. They're fighting with very strong GMs. And I guess then we should also take a look at the highest rated Latvian player participating in the event, Nikita Meshkovs. He won yesterday. Actually, very interesting game. So if someone would like to see how knight dominated the bishop, he had like a really strong knight there and just slowly outplayed his opponent, but very confidently. Very nice strategical game, you can see. So we could probably take a look at this one as well.
Yeah, and knowing how many games we do need to take a look at, probably we could jump in straight into the games, because otherwise the round might just finish.
Alright, yeah, absolutely. Let's see. So we should start with our first board, board number 1, Nicolas Teodorou. Yesterday he had a very nice win, very interesting position from the very start. He was with black pieces and he managed to get a comfortable game, put his opponent in time trouble, and convert it into the win. We see the players now on the screen. This is the live board. Yeah, so let's see what is the position.
So the position is just in the early stages in the opening, moved 13. So maybe it's not even that early in the opening anymore. So players did play out rather quickly a big chunk of their moves. And now they are already thinking. Seems that both players are already thinking, not being entirely in the book. White should be enjoying somewhat better position thanks to the piece activity. We have a very strong bishop in the center of the board, which is looking in two directions at a lot of squares, so he's controlling them there. And also the queen was forced to go not to the usual square where it likes to be on c7 in these kind of positions out of the open file, but to a rather passive square on e8 due to this bishop, which is taking away many squares.
And now that you mentioned it, since the queen is away from d8, it's not guarding the g5 square. This bishop, as you also pointed out, is looking towards the king. Is there bishop h7 tactic possible with knight g5 and queen h4 coming?
Oh wow, that could be a very good point. So yeah, especially that now the queen went away. So this is the g5 square that Anna mentioned. And so since it's not being controlled any longer by the queen, then there could come the very classical attacking tactic.
And this is called the Greek gift sacrifice. And our top seed is Greek. Come on, if we are going to see this, we have to check. Does it work? Bishop takes h7. So this is this Greek gift. You know, you kind of give something to your opponent. But as we know from the history lessons, it's not always such a kind gift. And the idea is that after king takes, the knight comes with a check. We could also start with queen h4. I'm not sure if it makes any difference in this position. Maybe actually queen h4.
It could make a big difference actually, because queen h4 forces the king to go backwards, because now we don't have an option to not go backwards.
Yeah, so that actually might be even more precise. And now the idea is that queen with the knight want to simply checkmate on h7.
And what is the way to stop it?
I don't know if this works. I think he's thinking about it. Look, he closed his eyes and he's just kind of trying to, I think, figure out, could it really be so simple here?
Oh, wow. Can it? It seems unbelievable.
Oh, no, I'm getting excited. It's 11. I was just thinking it's early morning, you know? I mean, kind of early morning after yesterday long round. And for the players, it's usually also not so easy in the double round day, this morning round. You kind of usually start slowly, but I think this is what he's thinking about. Does it work? Toms, you're a Grandmaster. What is your professional opinion?
It's hard to imagine how it could not work, since now we have a queen blocking the rook, so there are no options to free the f8 square for the king. And also, there is no way to free the f7 square, since the knight is controlling it very comfortably, and none of the pieces could come controlling h7 square, so it does seem to be working just perfectly.
Are we gonna see it on the board? Is he gonna take bishop h7?
Oh wow, that is... But actually these kind of things we very often see in the morning rounds, as in the opening phase, because players are still a bit asleep. The brain isn't fully awake, fully alert, and there very often happens to be some sort of exactly in the opening, I can't even describe it, like not really blunders.
Maybe you're not so cautious, you're just playing out, but you're not so tactically aware.
Yeah, like you're not completely aware of the whole board. You're like having some ideas, but they are like half half accurate, let's say the calculation is, and yeah, it seems to be just winning.
And it's so funny to look at him because he's not entirely like he's looking at the board and he's looking away, like just trying to figure out could it really be so simple?
Because mostly when we going for the sacrifice, we usually have the queen on d1, and in this case we would need to play knight g5 to be able to play queen h5, and then we could be faced with moves like king g6. The king is running away, attacking the king, and in case we come with the queen to attack the king again, then can follow with some moves like f5, and especially in this position it would not work in any way.
Yeah,
So
because the queen is attacked, so we don't have any tricks. Yeah, but here we can start with a queen check.
yeah, and this queen check, it just changes everything, the fact that the queen is on a4, and it's just hard to imagine what can you do.
So
I mean-
king, yeah.
But the
Sorry?
thing is that he has a lot of time on the clock, and if this works, the game is over. So he doesn't need to rush, he can just take his time. I mean, even if he spends now still 20 minutes thinking about this position, this will still be the first resultative game of the round. He will just have a lot of time to get ready for the second round and so on. So there is just like no reason to win the game faster, and it's better to make sure also, taking in the morning factor, he's probably also thinking if there's something that he's missing because he's half asleep. But
That's chess players, dear viewers. They often are not the sharpest in the morning, but let's see, is he going to take on h7? And there is really not that many sidelines that could happen. So instead of capturing the bishop, king could go to h8. That is just trying to escape from the checkmate, from the immediate loss, but still queen is coming. King doesn't have this little guardian there. The pawn is no longer in front of the king.
and if we do try to attack opponent's queen in a way that at least there will be no checkmate when we jump away with the bishop, we can make a move even like queen h5. And the next move anyways, bishop g6 is coming with a discovered check, and then we are going to queen h7 checkmate. And you can't do anything about it. If you try to escape in this kind of way, it is still a checkmate. So, can it be just game over?
Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. Is he going to play it? But he must be seeing it, right?
Yeah, he definitely has to see it. And I did play, like, he's playing, Teodoro is playing some attacking games. I do remember playing with him in some online event, and he went very sharp with white pieces, sacrificing some pawns and just attacking. So being an attacking player by the nature, I'm pretty sure that this is his first thought, and he probably just can't believe it, because it is unbelievable to really be having something
Absolutely.
like this on the board.
Absolutely. I mean, he, player with the black pieces, is a FIDE master, 2278. It's a very solid opponent. And move 13, yeah, you mentioned 13th, 14th. So this is just the beginning of the game. And to see such a possibility of an immediate win so early on, it is unusual.
It could be that he's familiar here with a move like queen c8, and in that case this is not working. So that that's why he's now double checking, because now the big difference would be in these lines that we can make some escape route for our king. So we can move the rook away, and in case we are now trying to checkmate, the king can escape. And perhaps he's familiar with something like this, and now he's just wondering that the queen on e8 is blocking the rook, and does it really work?
Yeah,
But-
that is a very big factor, that this queen went, blocked the rook as well. So the king, has even less plays there. So it's called such a mating net when king doesn't have a lot of squares around. And oftentimes when king is attacked, you try to move the pieces actually away, which might seem counterintuitive. You want pieces closer to your king. But no, you move them away so that king has an escape route. But here this rook doesn't have a square. It cannot move after queen e8 because the queen is blocking it. Are we gonna see a Greek gift? How do you think?
I think yes. I think this game is gonna be over in a moment. I think that white is just winning. It would be just unbelievable if both players miss it. Of course, it happens that sometimes both. We are actually speaking in the recent tournament where I was playing just a few weeks ago, that it's very common, even among grandmasters, that both players do miss the same tactic together, and that if one of them sees, then the other one also sees it. But if one misses, then both completely miss it, and those can be some very, very simple tactics. But I don't believe, because this is too classical, too. It's like the main idea, I would say, attacking the king. That's why we put the bishop in the center of the board, that it's both attacking on both sides of the board. And
Yeah, this is one of the first attacking ideas that you learn as a kid. The Greek gift sacrifice. All the kids really love it because it's like super exciting and also has this fun name. So you just give the piece, drawing the king out, and then the remaining pieces have this opportunity to attack the king, to deliver some cool checkmates. And he must be seeing it. Is he gonna play it? So cool. He's looking away from the board.
are we waiting to see if he plays it?
Let's still wait a moment. I think let's still wait a moment. And if he goes for bishop h7, it's basically game over. It's winning for white. There are really just like few moves that black can still stop the mate, but then the mate has to come. So this could be just game over on the first board.
We could maybe even see resignation immediately after bishop h7. I would not be surprised that the player with black pieces will be so upset that he's just gonna resign on the spot, not even play out those few moves till the checkmate.
Oh, let's see. Let's see. Come on. Let's see the move. He's calculating it in some way. He's calculating, and in some way he's just.
I'm sure he already calculated it
Yeah.
all, because there are not that many moves. That's the thing, that this is not a complicated long line where opponent can choose between a lot of different things. He is more like looking, is there something that I am missing, something very obvious, because it is too easy.
He is double checking. It's also like a fight with yourself. When you see something, you wanna go for it, but you feel okay. But maybe I should still make sure not to rush. I think his opponent sees it as well. Otherwise, he wouldn't be that focused.
Yeah, he is focused. He's looking if there are any ideas at all. Yeah, it does look like they both see it, and it's just this tension before the blow, before the punch. It looked like he's ready to make a move,
I
but no.
also was hoping, but not yet, not yet. But it would be so cool to see it on the board. We should take a look at the remaining board, since we have so many exciting games. But this is, if this happened, that would be great to have it here on the stream. Bishop h7. Yeah, and Doro is from Greece, so that would be such a great sacrifice by the Greek player. In the back, you see in the camera, this is Nikita Meshkovs, the highest rated Latvian player here in the tournament, second highest rated Latvian player in general. He's going to be playing in the Olympiad, soon representing Latvia. Actually, my co-commentator Toms is going to be there as well, so they will be representing Latvia. Theodor probably is also in the Greek team. So many players that actually are here will next month play in the Chess Olympiad. Also here in the background is Laura Rogula. She is 13 times Latvian women champion. That's incredible. And she is facing Kaido Kulau to probably see this game as well. But let's still wait a minute or two at least if the top seed is going to go for the Greek gift.
He still has 1 hour on the clock. He can take all his time and just play it on the last seconds if it's a checkmate. Maybe it's also a way to warm up for the afternoon round, because if you immediately go for you finish the game in 1 hour, it's like you didn't really play in this day. You didn't get to think about anything, and it's important to keep your brain in the rhythm, to be all the time just having to calculate lines and just checking, double checking, triple checking. Yeah, that is that's a good idea. Also, just from that kind of perspective.
How would you approach it? Like you're playing, you're playing okay against a lower rated opponent, but still, your opponent is quite good and experienced. How would you be approaching? Would you be double checking, or would you have just gone for it?
Oh no, I would be probably 5 times checking it, knowing what kind of stuff I usually tend to blunder when I get excited about some winning ideas. But but yeah, I would make a move also rather quickly because in this case it's just very easy to, like, if you see the idea, to deduct that there are simply no moves. Like, it's very hard to imagine some lines, what to calculate, what you could miss. Like, there are some positions that are rich with ideas, even just some sacrifices, some quiet moves. But here, just black is so blocked in. Just the king is in a cage by all the pieces, and the pieces just can move one by one with squares, and yeah, it's just, there's no way to miss anything.
Yeah, and you also have to trust yourself. So you have calculated once, maybe second time. Okay, double check few times. Look for some fresh ideas from your opponent. Maybe he has some defensive, creative moves. But then at some point you have to trust yourself, your calculation, be confident, and just go for it. How long is he already thinking? Do you know? Do you see the time before?
I think he's thinking like 20 minutes at least already at this point.
Oh wow, already 20 minutes. Sometimes it's actually tricky. Like if you start thinking over 15 minutes, you might start overthinking, overchecking, and it can sometimes be hurtful, but let's hope.
In this case, it's...
Most
I don't think in this case it applies really.
Yeah, nothing can stop him from playing bishop h7. Let's see.
But maybe we should switch to another board, and because we don't know, maybe he's gonna take another half an hour on this just to be super sure.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have some other boards that we need to take a look at, and we can keep an eye on this board just in case the move is played, and then we can jump back to it if something.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, we could switch to other boards where there are some interesting fights happening, and I guess we could move on to the board number 2.
Yeah, let's see. Board number 2. As we mentioned, we have a player from China. And players from China were causing a lot of difficulties against stronger opponents yesterday. So today also it is a lower rated opponent with white pieces. Zhuo Yifan from China against Kacper Piorun. Second seed. Kacper Piorun is one of those players over 2600 in the tournament, and this is him. This is Kacper Piorun. Couple of days ago here in Riga was also held a world championship in solving chess puzzles, and Kacper got there his 6th world championship title. So he is a fresh world champion in solving puzzles. Let's see how the chess is gonna go for him here in Riga. Yesterday he won a very nice game, and today this is the position.
So today he seemed to be better prepared, as just before this move he blitzed out his moves relatively quickly. But starting now from this moment he is thinking. So Queen e2 is the move that he was not ready for, and now he's already taking his time, already spending 10 minutes on the clock, so it's safe to assume that he's out of the book as well. So did we have some kings Indian kind of position here with a quick exchange of the c pawns? So unusual thing to see is that there is a rook on c8. How did it get there?
Yeah, probably queen e7 and then...
But then did we go back queen e d8?
Yeah, we can take a quick look from the beginning just to see how the position developed, how those pieces got to those squares. Quickly, yeah.
So yes, we did have a king's Indian defense, sort of, with a line with the c6. Oh, and the queen went to a5 first. So queen went to a5. Some aggressive ideas with queen coming to h5, bishop coming to g4 or h3 to exchange the strong defender of white's king. and that's why white is immediately playing e4, taking the center, so that they could also meet queen h5 with some knight jumps, maybe sometimes exchanging the queens, trying to trap the queen also, like if the queen is now going to h5, we could try to trap it with some e5 ideas that it doesn't have a way to retreat anymore. But now he uses the queen for a different purpose, and playing e5 using the fact that white does not have a possibility to control the dark squares that easily anymore, and white chooses to close the position the center, so there's a pawn exchange, pieces getting developed. So now white probably decided that the knight on f3 doesn't do anything, it's just looking at the pawn and on some defended squares, so he's gonna regroup it to some more useful place. e3 to not allow knight c5 to be met with a fork of b4. Rook coming to c8, that's how we got it there. And now the queen retreated to be probably ready to play knight c5 already without having to worry about the fork on b4. So white just continues developing, not allowing again knight c5, the same idea. Of course, the knight doesn't want to stay on a6, we never want knights on the side of the board, so that's why white is doing everything that they can to just make sure that the knight does stay on the side of the board. And now we have knight attacking the bishop. White does not like such trade, since bishop tends to be stronger usually than a knight, and we have f5 that the knight g4 would not be completely wasted move. And now queen e2 is the moment that we have on the board, and Kacper is thinking. How do you like this position? Who would you choose here, Anna?
Yeah, at the first glance, I think I like white a little bit better. Somehow feels a bit more natural setup of the pieces. I'm still not entirely certain of this knight on a6, which you were mentioning, and also f5. It's a very typical blow because you want to attack the center. You want to put pressure on your opponent's center, so this pawn on f5 came, but there is no rook to support it. It feels like there is a little bit not enough pieces on the king side for black as well. So at least at first glance, it just feels like the pieces maybe are not perfectly working together, not consolidated as well as I would like to. But I think the position is super rich and complex, so first glance shouldn't be enough.
Yeah, and the big point about this break of f5 is that in case we would ever take on e4, I think that that's a very, very big decision, as there no longer you have any pawns that could control the e4 square, and that kind of creates an outpost for white's pieces on e4. Outpost being the kind of square that you can just sit on, and nobody can do anything about it.
I'm sorry, I have just seen that on board 1 we have a castle instead of bishop takes h7.
Oh wow!
What?
Oh wow, that is just unbelievable.
Oh no, this just proves that morning is... This is 12. It's 12 already, but it's still early morning for chess players. Let's just quickly go back. Let's quickly show again. And that means that we are not going to have a short game there, because I am sure black is going to just defend the threat now. We have a castle instead of bishop takes h7. So Nicolas Todor didn't take bishop h7. What could he not like? I mean, he must have seen it.
No, the only explanation is that he did not think about it. He knew probably the position, the structure, and in none of the main lines it doesn't exist as an idea, because black makes sure that it doesn't work. And in this position he just probably didn't think about it. There's no other explanation. I think it's just...
So
it is
he would be
unbelievable.
thinking over 20 minutes and not see it? Wow, that is... Now we see Lim Zuo on the camera. He seems just relieved. Like, I think he was just tortured for those 20 minutes waiting for a bishop h7, being already like agreeing inside that he might just need to resign.
And that's also kind of the crazy thing in these situations in chess. Like, there is this term of keeping a poker face, that you just don't want to give away any emotions whatsoever for your opponent. But when it happens in poker, you have to do it for a maximum of few minutes, because there is a timer and there is not an infinite amount of time that the opponent can be thinking. And like in this case, he had to sit there for almost half an hour just waiting whether opponent is gonna go for the decisive blow or no. Wow. And he managed. He didn't give it away.
Wow. And you know, this is so funny. In chess, it's just you have to consider so many things at once as well. And if we gave this position to a junior player, not a strong junior player, or to really any chess player who, who already knows some basic attacking ideas, and we said there is a tactic here, they could just see it after 5 seconds.
Now, if you said that it's a tactic, yeah, I would say 80% of the whole chess population would see it in 5 seconds, because it's like the most classical attacking idea, the first one usually that you teach to kids in some simple tactics for mating. So yeah, wow, that is crazy. So for those of you who didn't hear it before, so instead of the move castle that was played as the last move for white, there was a bishop takes h7, and there would follow a mate in like 3 or 4 moves, and very easy mate, very forced mate. So that is
that's incredible.
truly, truly unbelievable.
Yeah, we can just show still one more time on the board that bishop h7 is followed by queen h4 check, and this is really important that we start with the queen. Very nice tactical idea. Dear viewers, if you want, you can take this position. You can send it to some of your friends. Just see if they find it, because for some reason the top seed here, rated 2619, he missed this idea, and we don't have it played on the board. Queen h4 is coming, king has to go back because king g6 doesn't help, because we just push this king anyways back, and then knight is joining the queen.
And queen h7 is unstoppable mate, since we cannot free the square on f8, as we have quite a blockade with 2 pieces in front, and the moving of f-pawn doesn't help as well, since knight is gonna be controlling the square anyways, so that is gonna be a checkmate, and moving of g-pawn also does not help, and we have no way to control any squares using this diagonal.
Yeah, black can't even sacrifice any material. Bishop can take on f2, but we just take it back, and there is like nothing to prolong the game, even if you're willing to give up a lot of material.
Yeah, because you often, when the queen is on d1, and after these sacrifices, you at least have an option to go king h8, because there's no queen h5 immediately to threaten the mate. But in this position, we have queen h4 anyways, and we are just gonna jump back with our bishop, doesn't matter where, and next move gonna come queen h7 with the same checkmate.
Oh wow, this really doesn't happen that often. Let's see how this game is gonna continue, because I think looking also now at the player with the black pieces, I think he must have seen it. He really was readying himself that this game is basically over. Now he also needs to regroup and start looking at this position in a fresh light.
If somebody is sometime making a case on why chess should not be played in the mornings, why there should be not morning rounds, you have to mark down this game and use it as an example.
Yeah, this is brutal. Playing chess in the morning is brutal. Oh wow. Okay. This is gonna be a long fight now. After castling, black has a tempo. This is so important in chess. When you have a chance, often you just have to use it. If you don't, then your opponent just gets time to prepare some defense. He's yawning. It's hard to play. But yeah, he has time to play some things like g6, or probably g6 looks more or less fine. White most likely is still more pleasant with this active bishop in the center, but the game will still continue for some time.
Yeah, even if not for g6, even just h6 as well probably is very, very relaxed. There's taking control of the g5 square, making sure that we never have any sacrifices there. As after g6, we do sometimes have to worry that we have weakened the dark squares. So there's the weakness on g7. Something could come along this diagonal, since our bishop is very much out of there, and we can't get it back in because again the f8 square is blocked in. So, but I mean, it's again, it's safe to say we are not gonna lose a game immediately if we do go for the any of those moves, g6, h6, f5 as well. Maybe he's just gonna be tempted to make sure that nothing ever happens there, and just to force it all away and just plays f5. I would not be surprised also by that kind of decision here.
Actually f5 and then e5. It's a bit risky though, the pawns can be attacked. Some checks possible, so it feels a bit more risky, but it's probably playable as well.
We don't want to take probably on c6 here, as that will just make black's light square bishop very, very powerful, but we might be just you retreat. I don't even really know. D3, CT, C2, and then starting some active game of E5, E4, F4, these kind of threats, and maybe the queen on E8 is actually going to turn out to be very, very well placed.
But imagine if he won't react anything on the king side, play some move like A6 to, I don't know, prepare B5, and we'll see it anyways. Because somehow mystically he also doesn't see this tactic. I don't think it's possible. But wow, that is incredible.
He could go for E5 now to fight for the center, and then with the plan to go F5 in the next moves or something, and then we hit with the same idea.
And it works. Still, it works probably, right? Because really not much has changed. All right, I think we should come back to this game. This is not going to be finished so soon. So should we go back to the board number 2? We only covered it briefly and then covered the rest of the field.
Yeah, we can go for a moment back to board number 2, although for now the game is just heating up. It's in the stage that not very much is happening there just yet, and the next 5-10 moves are gonna be decisive on to determine what kind of character the game is gonna have. If it's gonna be a sharp game, or if it's gonna be a slow positional game. So Kasper has played knight c7 as the last move here, deciding that knight doesn't want to go to c5, and you got to do something with it. You can't leave it on a6, and does he want to play b5? Oh no, I think actually he's thinking about knight b5, and with the idea is to exchange it or get to d4 square. And if we do exchange, then we get after knight we get the bishop on b5 on a very, very fantastic diagonal. So that is probably his main idea on knight c7 now, just to regroup it either to a good square or just to improve his bishop.
Yeah, knight b5 feels like maybe we could even call it a positional threat.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. And it's not easy now to decide what to do with white pieces. There are so many options. Do we allow it? Do we not allow it? Do we play something like h3? Do we take on f5?
Maybe a4.
Yeah, a4 just to stop it. That would be the... Yeah, if we don't like knight b5, then a4 is the move that we want to play. After which... No, the taking on e4 still will not be working, because none of this is important, as on d6 there's another pawn hanging. So yeah, this kind of position with semi-closed center, like the center is blocked, but there is some tension happening in it, and all the pieces on the board open file in the position as well. So there's a lot of game, a lot of possible moves, a lot of nuances to consider, to calculate, and but for now, I guess we could say that it's just balanced game.
Yeah, always those unclear position. Position of a lot of potential, we can call it, which is really the case. We can, I think, at the end just mention that the time situation could be an important factor in this game, because it is already half an hour more on the clock for Kacper Piorun. He has 1 hour 11 versus 41 minutes. It can play a role in this time control. We will not have any additional time after move 40 here. So it's 90 minutes for both players. The beginning of the game, they receive 30 seconds after each move, but there is no additional time control. Oftentimes, you see tournaments where we have, after move 40, still half an hour for the players, so they can kind of survive this time trouble, but then they will get half an hour. Here, it's not the case. So they have this time, and they just have to manage the whole game with it. So this time differences, this can be a factor, but we will come back to this game. I think let's see board number 3 just to see our top 3 players, even though I don't think it's that exciting, but I think we should take a look.
Yeah, there's not very much that we can say about board number 3 just yet. The game is developing in a very, very slow pace, very positionally, and so we have...
As it should be in the morning, right? So yeah, GM Eldai Safarli with white pieces, high-rated opponent with a600 against international master from India, Sai Agni Jivitesh. Sorry if it's not pronounced. as it should be. And yeah, they have equal time. Position seems to be very balanced.
So what makes the position very balanced is that we have exchanged one pawns. Each side have an E pawn missing, and the pawn structure on the queen side is symmetrical. So these pawns are just placed on the same squares, just on opposite side. And the only difference is that we have played g6 move, which is against the pawn on g2. But that is still very, very minor kind of positional difference there. And I think that it actually helps black here to have g6 on the board, since it controls the knight's jumps. Like this knight has no useful squares whatsoever where to go to. And what very often happens in these positions is that all 4 rooks get exchanged somewhere along the e-file, because neither of the side wants to give up the e-file. So it just finishes with the rook exchange, and then we get to some sort of an endgame. Of course, Altai Safarli, being way higher rated opponent, is looking to push in this game. Just do it very, very slowly, maybe do it risk-free. As I think it is very common for his game. His playing style is very often this risk-free approach, just to play a long positional game. So yeah, no big surprise there, and I don't think he is really too upset just on how equal the position is at this moment.
Okay, and if we try to, well, create some game because we want to win it as white, what could be the plan? Do you go more in the center on this e-file as you mentioned, or do you try to push like a pawn or h4 pawn? How would you try to just find those little things here in the position?
So one of the things here is that we are staring down on b7 pawn. Just yet we didn't want to take it because bishop takes, then queen would take, and other rook would come to b8, attacking the queen and going further on to b2. But it's something that black has to keep in mind, that it can at some points start hanging, and actually that's why rook b8 was played. I don't like this move in a long term, to be honest, and these kind of little moves could be what you're playing here for white. Just that black actually, not so much that you outplay your opponent, but that your opponent is maybe putting pieces on somewhat uncomfortable squares, and in the long term, then one move like this, another, and then at the end, like, you get a little bit tangled up. You have harder decisions to make, and yeah, then some problems could arise. So why I don't like rook b8 is because it's coming just under the pin of the bishop. So of course now we have 2 knights in front, but when we are not able to move both of the knights, that is already limiting our possibilities in this position quite a lot. And some ideas could involve also gaining some space with something like h4, h5, using the g6 provoked pawn. Since we cannot, after h4, let's say, we are not able to take on h4 due to the knight hanging on d6.
This is really nice. Okay, so h4 could actually be a very cool way of getting a bit more space.
And yeah, and the thing is that also we cannot immediately get rid of this bishop. So with the moves like knight e6, I don't think we can exactly play f6 here due to the knight hanging on e6, but maybe I'm wrong. Oh, actually maybe we can. Yeah, queen takes, and we are not in time to actually put any pressure here.
So maybe white would have to go bishop h6 after knight e6 and h5. This should be playable.
But if we do this, then I don't like my pawn on h5 anymore, because I wanted to have an idea to push it to h6, since we are not gonna be able to create too many threats along on the g6, and now bishop f8 could come with a lot of exchanges. And I think he didn't like the knight e6 move as well, and that's why he went very quickly here for rook e2. So here after rook e2, the very big difference is that in case the same line would happen, we have rook e1 immediately hitting both of those pieces.
And that's very nice. That's very nice. Often when there are multiple pieces on the same file or on the same diagonal, you can try to attack them, and it's just one of them is going to be lost. They're piled up there and hanging. So that's very logical move. Just that's also the only open file in the position, and rooks, they enjoy open files, so why not to double them? Probably black can try to meet also their own rook. Something like rook e8 makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but here also we see the factor of why the rook b8 is not maybe that useful move, because you are guarding your pawn using the rook. So that you take away from yourself the option that you would want to trade off all four rooks. So you'll have to spend another move somewhere to take care of the b7 pawn before you can actually fully fight for the control of the e file. And for that reason, maybe some different sort of operation, how to defend the b7 pawn to make sure that it doesn't ever hang, that it's not dangerous, would have been more comfortable, let's say that. But in these positions, the thing is, you have to do a lot of small mistakes before the position actually becomes bad. So it can become uncomfortable to play, but it's still gonna be very, very close to equality. Almost like doesn't matter what you play.
Yeah, but sometimes this is actually when you see the class of the player, and there are those games that much better player just very slowly outplays the opponent, and it's not even clear where the mistake happened. Maybe there wasn't even a decisive mistake, but just slowly getting like slightly uncomfortable here and there, and there you have it, you're outplayed. It happened to me, unfortunately, against those grandmasters. It's not easy to play. I'm not saying we will see it here. We all know that India, they have those like super strong players now. The coaches there are doing an incredible job as well. So let's see how it's going to develop. I think we could take a look at the top Latvian player, Nikita Meshkovs. He is playing on board number
10.
So let's see, board number 10, Samuel Weber against Nikita Meshkovs. Player with white pieces is rated 2265 against 2540, so almost 300 points. That is quite a big difference, but I think the position is quite sharp. I was taking a look at it, and it just feels very exciting. We have opposite side castles attacking, and this is the case where I don't know if player with white pieces was better prepared or what happened, but he was quite up on time. Now he started to think a little bit more, but I'm not sure what the position is.
Yeah, so also very often we see that when a lower rated player confidently goes for a sacrifice, that is because he has prepared the sacrifice somewhere. Because just like that, intuitively, most of the time you don't feel comfortable to sacrifice an exchange when playing against a Grandmaster. But in this case...
we can see probably how it happened. Unless he blundered, but no, because he played really fast, right?
Yes, he played it very, very fast. So we had deck... it's an exchange variation? No, it's in Karakan, or no, how it's called? I don't know properly. But the line where we take on f6, and black is playing with doubled pawns, but for that they have more open files and more easy piece play. And here white chooses an aggressive setup with a long castle, so whenever we have opposite side castles, that promises some attacking chances, because to use the fact that the king is not where the opponent's king is, we are just going forward with all our pawns and trying to break the wall that is in front of the king. And so here knight is coming to f8, the best defensive square, just defending h7, making sure that no big attack would happen. And now white is preparing to open up the game. So h3 with some ideas to open up the h file, to play the g4, to maybe open up the g file, so to prepare to bring all the pieces closer to the rook. So bishop e6, doing the same thing, looking against the opponent's king, and white does not care, but immediately goes for g4, just very, very aggressively. Queen a5, now being ready to take on a2. We could already are threatening to take with the queen, then bishop could come to b3, queen a1 even can be a dangerous at some instances, and that's why b3 is getting played. No longer white is ready to give up the pawn. And here we see bishop d5, and after bishop d5, knight jumps simply away and lets black just capture an exchange. So this is just an exchange, not even for a pawn, which is not so common, I would say, which is very, very aggressive approach. So white is saying that the control of the light squares in this position is more important than it is to have a rook, because we don't have that many open files, and if you have an open file, then it's fine for me to have just one rook here. And black naturally wants to open up the game, so c5 is the kind of move that just wants to open some files for the rooks, that they could really become more powerful and start to more work as rooks, let's say that.
Yeah, this is what you always want to do, just open files leading towards opponent's king. But you know what, we were considering that maybe it was a prep, but I checked how much time he spent. He did spend some minutes before. On b3 he spent 8 minutes, and maybe he just overpushed a little bit. I think he knew the position till some point, but I wouldn't think that this sacrifice was his prep. He also doesn't feel super happy now. When we look at his body language, he feels like he's not enjoying this morning, whether because of the morning or the position. I think it's a mix of the two. I think he is not happy. He also doesn't feel like White's attack is going anywhere in this position.
Yeah, maybe White is not really thinking about attack, but more that he's gonna lock down the center and then slowly open up. Because if we do take on h5, that will be a pawn, at least for an exchange. We'll have an open g file, and perhaps some threats could appear. But at this moment, it's a very big decision. Do we go d5, trying to keep the center closed, or we leave it as it is and just try to be fast with bringing a rook to g file and actually creating something against the king?
Or do we just take on h5, yeah? Or that is still too early?
If we do take on h5, we could be met by taking on d4, and now the queen can recapture back on h5, leaving us with a very shattered pawn structure. And I would say also quite uncomfortable knight on h4. And if we do some move like knight f5 here, bishop e5 could come, and then there could be some attack on the c file, and the king rather quickly could become very, very exposed. So if I was playing here with White, I would be thinking how to keep the position closed, how to not let the rooks be too active, because for now there's only one open file, and bishop from e3 is very comfortably blocking this file for now. But if the files open up more freely, then those rooks are gonna be crazy powerful. So d5, he might not like b5 move here.
I was also thinking maybe c4 is an option, but c4 is quite... maybe it's too much because it's a pawn sacrifice, but well, we are making sure that something is gonna open up. And if bishop takes, there's some rook c8 ideas. We are putting pressure on the c3 pawn with the queen and with the rook together. So afterwards, after we play b5, kick this bishop away, we have quite a lot of access. And also on the c5 pawn, our bishop can look all the way towards a3 square. Maybe it makes some sense.
Yeah, that's looking very dangerous. So might be that after c4 you have to take with a pawn, the only way. But the same idea could be kind of
Still
unpleasant.
Still rook c8 and b5, trying to just open stuff up.
Yeah, it feels very, very quick. White.
Because White has bishop d4 and knight f5.
But yeah, we still can even play bishop e5. We don't have to go to a3. We can just keep attacking also here on c3 from this side. I'm certainly starting to like black's position a lot. It seems to be also not only up on the material, but also just more easy to play. All the pieces are working. They're not like somewhere sitting at home, not doing anything, and it's all very fast and very, very, very direct. While White is rather discoordinated. Still there's a knight on h4, not doing much. There's rook on h1, not doing much. There's bishop on e3, that is just a defender, also not doing much. And our king is still on c1. So once we are making a long castle, we usually have to count in the time factor that we need to move the king somewhere to the side. Because on c1 it tends to be rather exposed, giving opponent a lot of attacking ideas. So we want to sometimes bring it over to b1, just to be protecting our pawns and to feel comfortable. But that is another move. So White is needing a lot of those extra moves, and move for the knight, a move for the king, a move for the rook, and they might simply not have it.
Yeah, it feels like black's threats are already there. Meanwhile, white still would have to also prepare his own attack, but they also have to focus on their defense. So I feel it's a little bit too slow. This is why I think at least we see him holding the head. He's like, of course he might just be focused, but I think he's not super happy about his position.
Yeah, I guess this assumption that it was preparation, that was just believing his time management early on in the game, just believing it too much. But maybe it was just rushed decision in the morning, not paying attention to the position carefully enough.
Yeah, all right, let's see. It seems for now pretty promising for the top Latvian participant here in the tournament for Nikita Meshkovs. And maybe we should also see, you were mentioning before, our female players that participate here in the tournament. We can probably see board 8. It's quite unusual position. I'm not sure how exciting already, but we can take a look. Women Grandmaster Josephine Heinemann against Grandmaster Peter Prohaska from Hungary. So this is board number 8. Yeah, we see, actually I'm here also on this view. You see the whole stage. Our top players have a really nice stage. They're playing in this beautiful exhibition hall, Gypsala, and yeah, those are our players, Josefina and Peter. What do you think about this position? I feel you sometimes have a very similar structure in your positions, or no?
I don't think so.
No?
But the position it's very sharp. It is very, very sharp. So to say what do I think about it immediately is not easy. So what is happening here is that both kings are still in the center, despite it being move 14. Both kings are in the center, and that opens a lot of aggressive ideas that could happen. Also, black has pushed the pawn to h3, so it is not easy to choose for white where to castle the king, since if we castle on the king side, then we might be having to deal with the h3 pawn the entire game. Like we even saw yesterday in the game by Tomasz Laurushes that he pushed the pawn on h3, and because of this pawn he could just sacrifice some other pawns, but he still was feeling very comfortable with the game. Such a pawn wedge is very, very serious thing. While if we do castle on the queen side, then we don't have many pawns there to defend our king anyways. But maybe it is the safer approach, just to run away from the h3 pawn problems, and also at the same time bringing the rook on the open file, on the d file, and maybe getting the king to b2, using the fact that opponent has no dark square bishop, that, yeah, saying it's gonna be fine. And on the other hand, yeah, black is having two knights as well. So white has two bishops, black has two knights. So this is such the most classical material imbalance clash in the chess, just saying which is gonna be stronger in which position. And here the interesting thing is that both the bishops, both the knights look very nice. So it's the bishop on g5 is especially nice and strong, because black doesn't have a dark square bishop, and we are using it to pin the knight down on the queen, and also we have some threats of knight e4. While on the other hand, black has a very, very nice knight on e5 that is having some ideas to take on f3, to jump to g4, and just to be very, very annoying for white, because sometimes we might even consider playing bishop g4, not to exchange our knight, but to try to exchange our bishops and to get our knight to g4, and to use the fact that pawn on h3 has blocked down the pawn on h2, and that will tie down white's rook to defending the pawn for the entire game. So in that way, knight could basically neutralize opponent's rook without even attacking it, just because of it needing to defend the pawn. So I guess I do like the black's position here somewhat better, but that, I think it's just like my feeling, and the objective evaluation should be rather equal. But what do you think, Anna? What is your take on this?
Yeah, I was actually about to ask you. So after all this analysis, who would you choose? I think I also like black, but again, I think it's because I'm a bit more used to playing such structure from the black side. I like this pawn on h3 that you have mentioned. It's just such a funny little tricky guy there on h3 that, it can bring us some cool ideas, even with the h2 pawn. Sometimes if our knight jumps to g4, we take the h2 pawn, suddenly we have a passed pawn, and if white wants to move the rook, it could be a target. So I think maybe black's position for now is a little bit more like fun and funky to play. It's, I think, for now, at least for the next couple of moves, a bit more easy to choose moves for black. But I think, yeah, it's still very complicated, and anything can happen here. I think this can be a fun game, especially in the next couple of moves.
The big thing I think that for black to understand is, do we need to care about knight jumping to e4, attacking this knight and using the spin, or no? Like how dangerous it actually is. And I think that determines very much our next moves. Because I don't think we want a castle here, because then knight e4 is going to be very, very unpleasant, with ideas to take on f6 and simply open up our king as well. So let's say in this case we play a move like... That's actually a good question, move like what? But okay, let's say like rook e8. Then we could just open it up and just play on calmly in this kind of manner. Just the king is also more exposed, and then we are going to try to run away with our king a bit later. Of course, it could lead to a lot of exchanges on f3 as well, but I don't think this is what black wants to do. They want to keep this knight there.
But you know what? I haven't seen the time before. Now I noticed that Grandmaster Prohaska, he is on only half an hour. Meanwhile, Josephine has almost 1 hour still, so it's almost 2 times more time on the clock.
Oh wow, that is a very, very good point. On 13 moves, he has spent already 1 hour. That is a lot of time indeed.
I don't recall, because he has played here in previous years, and I also played some open where he participated. I don't recall his time management. Like, there are those players, who just tend to spend quite a lot of time early on in the game, and later they just kind of... they're used to playing in time trouble, so they have to speed up later. I don't recall how is it for him. I'm not sure if you do, but still it is not very pleasant situation, and it might indicate that he is not that confident after all. Maybe this 94 is actually a bigger problem than it seemed at the beginning.
It could be that, but it could be also the fact that he's just thinking which pieces to leave on the board. It's very hard to decide, and also... I mean, he's playing much lower rated opponent, so very big thing that he's thinking about certainly is winning chances. Where does he have a better winning chances? Where is white safe and where is white not that safe? So doesn't matter that he's lower in time, doesn't matter that opponent might be more prepared. Being still higher rated opponent, you are looking always to have a complicated game and not to give easy decisions on the board for your opponent. So that also can lead to a lot of overthinking and some mistakes, sometimes not choosing the strongest move. But yeah, so I think it could be also happening here, because you have to choose really, like, which is bishop e6, bishop f5, castle. Are we going for long castle, or are we going for the short castle? Do we want to take on f3? Oh yeah, of course, bishop g4 is also a move. It's just so many moves here, so many possibilities that it's just it's actually quite overwhelming to think about it. Like, I would be not feeling very happy here with black on the board from this perspective, even though I would like the position, but from this perspective that I have to choose the best moves, that would be very, very problematic.
Yeah, this is why we see you here in the commentary room. Understandable. Okay, but yeah, that can be really interesting. I think also Josephine, she seems pretty confident here. So let's take a look at some other game. I was taking a look at multiple games. We will have to go back, not go back, but go to Laura Rogula's game, but I think a bit later. For now, the position is still developing there. But on a bit further boards, if we could take a look, board number 21 or board number 24. On board number 24, it's quite unusual position. Maybe we can just take a very quick look.
Oh, that is A big jump lower. Okay, let's do
But we can access this board, right?
24.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Let's find board 24.
Board 24 looks very crazy at the first glance. So maybe we can see this board 24. I don't think we have camera on the players. Now we can just try to understand what is going on in this position very briefly. And I think a player with white pieces is a player you're familiar with, right?
Yes, I am quite familiar with the player with white pieces. So there's one of my students. And so, of course, I am very, very interested on how he does here. And, well, the position is certainly a lot to take in, especially on the first glance when you don't know what was happening before. It's probably safe to assume that it was some sort of Sicilian, right?
It looks like this. Yes, it was Sicilian. Kan with bishop d3 and very fast d5. Okay, I'm not sure if he was familiar with your student. So yeah, Reinis Valdets playing with white pieces. One of the biggest Latvian talents, right? From the junior players, Tom's student against international master Hasan Celik. The rating difference between those two players is, let me tell you,
190 points approximately.
yeah, so it's quite, depends what you're gonna get, especially if you're lower rated opponents with white pieces, and if you're going to get a position you want, it can be not really that huge rating difference. But let's what is happening here? The pawn on f5, is it hanging? Is it not hanging? What's going on? Those pawns, they are very advanced, and we've seen it in different positions, but usually the king then is somewhere else. But here the king on g1 for white, but the pawns also are not by the king, but they're somewhere forward going at the opponent's king. So this is why this position is very exciting. So many attacks as well.
But I think black is doing fine here. Black seems to be doing very, very fine. They are one move away from playing e5 to developing the last piece that is not playing at all here. And that should be the main concern, as we have no way to undermine the knight on h5. So we cannot break through towards the king very quickly. We have to take into account also that knight could take on d3. So yeah, I think that black has solved the opening problems, but at the same time, of course, the position is very, very complicated, and some imprecise move can lead to some crazy tactic happening. And okay, let's say the next move we play something like bishop b1.
But do you want to go e5, because that lets the d5 square for the knight?
Oh, and it also freezes d5 square. That is true. That is true. Okay, that is a very good point. Yeah, bishop b1 actually got played. Okay, yeah, we don't want to allow knight coming to d5, but so then do we play b6 to get the bishop out and to use the fact that king is also rather exposed for white? Wow, this is a very complicated position. So b4 could be happening as the next move. If you do play b6, knight d7, and then maybe we can even go for something like bishop g6.
But there's also knight e4. Without knight on c5, actually knight e4 maybe is a very good option, just bringing the knight. Bishop g6 also after captures. What is going on? This is a crazy position.
Oh, this would make the pawn drop if we don't have any tactics to show for it.
Yeah, black can just pick this guy up.
But yeah, but we have to calculate bishop g6, we have to calculate knight g6. That's a lot. That is a lot of different moves. Yeah, I kind of like this idea with both knight d5 coming here in the next move, the queen being attacked, and the king not having too many defenders. Let's say that we exchange, the queen has to go somewhere, and now just getting knight d5. But it could be also just that it doesn't work at all because the knight is hit, and just in few moves black gets out completely here. And
unless instead of knight d5 we play first something like queen c2, just attack the pawn on g6, which is not that easy to defend, because as you said, there are no defenders. Although still knight d5 is there.
Still knight d5, yeah, still the same annoying move is there, but there could be something more tricky here. very, very easily there could be some tricky intermediate move, even like b5. Just taking away the squares from the queen as well could be unpleasant, because if you do need to put the queen back. Okay,
on b7, then there's queen d3, which is attacking the pawn on g6, but also the bishop on d6. So then knight e5 is not working anymore.
Okay, but this could not work actually. Yeah, there's also counter-attack. But yeah, the position is very, very rich, very, very interesting, and yeah, will be fun to see how it actually develops and what black plays in this moment. I'm hoping he goes for e5 here. That would, I think, make white's position very nice if e5 would be played. Indeed, after knight d5, one move, and then we actually don't have where to put the queen, and then something at knight f5 could follow, using the fact that knight is hanging also on h5, and suddenly white would be in complete control of this position.
And since this is your student playing, you know him quite well, I can assume. So does he usually find himself well in those types of positions, like sharp, a lot of attacks, maybe sacrifices possible?
Yeah, he does calculate very, very well, and he has a good feeling for both positional game and tactical game. So yeah, I think he's feeling very comfortable here. He is maybe spending a little bit too much time, as he's down to half an hour, but was good to see that last two moves were played quickly, so I'm sure that he's aware of the time management issue, that he can't go too low on time here, and that he needs to speed it up, and that's why we saw those practical moves, like taking on g6, making sure that that is done, and also bishop b1, just such a practical move that you always need, just being played out quickly, and yeah, anything can happen in this game. Like absolutely anything, yeah. Just next few moves probably will determine very much on how black is trying to solve the development, and then if white has something to do before black finishes development. Because if black fully finishes development, then probably black is going to be doing very well, especially if the bishop reaches b7 comfortably. Because then white will be the ones who always have to defend against some mating ideas, and we cannot just go all in on attack. So yeah, very, very concrete game, as often it is in Sicilian when we go for some attacking ideas.
Nice. Okay, so maybe we'll get back to this game. Now we should probably go back to the top boards though. But yeah, this is one of the biggest Latvian talents among junior players, maybe in a couple of years representative of Latvia at the Olympiads or other big events, even among already all the players, not only juniors. So let's see, what should we check? Do you have some game that you would like to see?
Maybe let's check board number 4, as there is a bit unusual position with the king on f8.
So let's see, board number 4. We have Mauro Tirelli against Paulius Pultinevicius. Yes, those are the players. We were going with Tom's in the car for the game, and we were checking the pairings, and I saw that Mauro Tirelli is participating in the tournament, and I actually had a very funny game against him a couple of years ago, and I blundered my queen in one move. So we were talking about this game. But yeah, he's a very solid player from Italy, over 2200. Playing with the white pieces against one of the favorites to win this event, Paulius Pultinevicius. He won a couple of years ago here in Riga, this very tournament. And yeah, as Tom said, this king on f8 is not really usual. It happens in some of those variations. Was it Caro-Kann?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Caro-Kann. We see Caro-Kann in a lot of Paulius games, but he's choosing a lot of kind of lines that promise complicated game, and yeah, king on f8 is typical that it goes in these Caro-Kann positions. So the main thing about king on f8, rather to having a short castle, is that we have a rook to defend the king from this side as well.
So for example, now you already see queen is on h3 for white. Bishop is on d2. Together they're looking towards the h6 pawn. if the rook wasn't there, perhaps there are some sacrifices possible, and so black will have shorter position of the king, and not really such an easy way to bring the defenders in. This way, a rook is guarding this pawn, so g7 pawn and the rook together are keeping this position solid. So maybe it's not so easy to break through. It seems the white's position is like super solid, right? Super like healthy because everything is in the center.
Except the queen. The queen could be a problem also. As we see now, it went to h3 to defend the knight on f3, but it doesn't have many squares, not much to do, and also black has already prepared their bishops for attack. So this is this funny situation that both sides want to attack, and is the question who is going to be better at it. Like, none of the pieces are set for defense, they're just ready for attack. And so who is first? Who has a more dangerous attack? Who will be more creative maybe in those attacking ideas that will be doing better here. Since white can just play something at knight e5 to bring over another attacker, and black does not have an easy way to get the knight in the game, not have an easy way to get this rook in the game just yet. Just actually wondering what is the way to strengthen the position here. From the black side still, we can't play g5, because that would be met by bishop takes g5 and the rook is hanging. So if we could play g5, that would be very, very tempting move to play, to bring king over to g7, connect all those pieces, to have sometimes g4 ideas, since the queen is not having many squares on h3. But I guess we are never gonna be able to play it as long as the queen is standing there on the h-file, so we have to look for some different ideas, different approach. Maybe rook d5 could be an idea here. Just getting this rook in the game. It can be joining the game if we move the knight through h5 as well. So we don't exactly want to move the knight, and if we do defend the here, we could be faced with some problems with bishop d6, and again connected with this knight being attacked and rook h5 coming, and now everything is already just staring down on this h2 point.
Unless now still white has a f4 move, which wasn't there before. Because the pawn was pinned, but now bishop is no longer looking towards the king, so maybe f4 is still an option.
Yeah, f4 that could be an option, and then I would assume that the plan would be to switch a little bit gears from the black side and just to use that the king is in a corner with 0 moves, and looking to prepare some ideas of knight g4, knight f2, also using the fact that sometimes if you cannot take on g4 because that would open the h-file. So yeah, it's a very, very potentially sharp position, and I think it's hard to play because from both sides.
White even has those options with knight on e5. There's some bishop g6 ideas sometimes, right? In most of the cases, they probably are not enough, but after pawn takes, we have queen e6 and some almost like checkmating nets are there, but maybe they don't work, but you still have to calculate. Sometimes it could work.
The idea that Anna is mentioning is, let's say we skip a move, that could happen bishop g6, attacking the pawn, and after we take queen e6, we put the king in a cage, has no moves, and we are threatening checkmate in 1 on g6, which is not that easy to defend actually. Like, if this is to happen, I think this is already a checkmate almost, because we cannot just defend the g6 square in any way. So yeah, a lot to take in from both sides, a lot of lines to calculate, and here in this position he did take on c5, and it's hard to imagine a different reason to do take on c5 rather than to put the knight on e5, because otherwise we did improve this bishop quite a bit. It's very, very active, and white lost some of their control of the center. So I think knight e5 is the main move he's considering here, but could be also the bishop c3, since now there's no longer pawn on d4, that he's looking to play on this diagonal here as well.
Yeah, because such move like knight g5 is not a move, right? Doesn't feel serious, since it cannot be captured, but
the time, again we see the same factor that I actually mentioned already yesterday. Yeah, you don't want to be so low on time so early in the game. So white player is down to 20 minutes on the move 17 here with all the pieces on the board, and all the complicated stuff is just about to start. Like whatever you do now, you're gonna have complicated tactical lines happening, and you will need time. You will need time to navigate this position, and yeah, that's not where you want to be in this kind of position. So very, very likely that is going to be a decisive factor of the game. Not the position, because position is complicated but double-edged, but the time is going to force you to play faster and maybe do some worse decisions. And Paulius is very, very good at using the time pressure, as I was already mentioning it before.
Meanwhile, we have already first results after 2 hours, roughly 2 hours of play. Both board number 12 and 13 have finished. So I'm not sure. Do we want to see? I guess we can take a look. Especially board number 12. There was unfortunately just a quite basic blunder. So we can take a look. Yeah, in this moment. Exactly. So board number 12, we'll just take a look. They have already finished their games. Those are first results. I think only results we have on the live boards at least.
So what happened here? So e4 97, forcing that we can take, and the bishop is hanging. Oh wow. Oh wow. So that is very, very unfortunate. So yeah, in this position, black played c5. Trying to stop knight c5, c6 fork, and now after taking...
yeah, but I think we don't see the board now.
Oh, okay, we don't see the board, yeah.
Yeah, we need...
Okay, so yeah, so in this position, black did play c5 to stop knight c6, and after takes...
But he could have taken with the queen, no? No, because then exchange the knight c6 anyways.
Yes, that would be there. So maybe it was already... bad position, and here we see the blunder. So it looks okay, everything is protected, but everything is barely protected. And what white does is it kicks the knight away somewhere. So knight is attacked, we have to make a move, and now after we make a move with the knight, we take the rook, drawing the queen away, and the queen is no longer defending the bishop, and that's a game over.
The queen is overloaded. It's a very common tactic. It's just defending two things at the same time, and yeah, it's just not possible. If we take first one, draw the queen away, and then other pieces dropping, and that's it. That's there was just, I think, one more move, basically a check.
Yeah, they just gave a check, but of course that's does not matter. But yeah, we are piece down. If we don't have anything going on for us, any attacking ideas, then that's a game over on this level.
And it's interesting because with white pieces we have international master. His rating is already over 2500, 2510, but he's still an international master. Maybe he is fighting for his norm here, because to achieve a Grandmaster title, you need to cross rating of 2500. Usually it's very difficult, it's so hard to do it. But he already has it, so his rating is already over 2500. But then, to get a title, you still need 3 norms. And since he doesn't have a title, it could be that he still is lacking those norms. We don't know how many. It would be interesting to find out. But I think most likely he is fighting for the norm here. So those victories, especially in first rounds, are really important for him. Because that way he's going to get higher rated opponents. And the higher rated opponents give him better average rating, and it's just easier to make a norm, because for a Grandmaster norm he needs at the end of his tournament to have a performance of 2600, which is insanely difficult. So he needs strong opponents, he needs good results against those strong opponents. So yeah, maybe he is one of the norm seekers, and not only any norm but a Grandmaster norm.
Yeah, and actually what is also for the norms, players need 3 norms, but one of those norms need to be achieved in an open tournament. So in tournaments with a lot of participants where there are not pre-arranged pairings, not pre-arranged the lineup of the players. And this is the part where a lot of players are struggling, and to find open tournaments where they can actually play with strong enough opponents without having to face a lot of low-rated players, thus losing any chance to have this average rating requirement. And yeah, here in Riga, definitely it is possible. As we saw so many title players, and already in the first rounds, you're not playing with somebody very, very low, but we saw the top players playing against players 2100, now in the second round almost 2300, so your average opponent's rating is going to be very, very high.
Absolutely. So congratulations to him. And I think we should take a look at board one because it is quite exciting, despite the fact that we had this super exciting chance of a Greek gift sacrifice by our Greek top seed. But okay, it didn't happen on the board, but now we have a very promising attack from the white side anyways. So maybe let's take a look at the board one. Grandmaster Nicolas Teodoro against FIDE Master Zuo Lim, all the way from Malaysia. So that's so cool to see players from all over the world coming here. We have participants from 38 different countries here in Riga this year. So that just shows how interesting it is. And maybe it's connected with the fact that it's a really good tournament for the norms. So people really want to travel here to Latvia. Also, of course, it's a country and city of Mihail Tal, who is one of the most loved players in history, the most loved world champion because of his very interesting, beautiful playing style, a lot of sacrifice. So many people just are kind of drawn to come at least one time in their life to Riga to see his city.
Yeah,
So
and we had really spectacular game here. Really, that is fantastic. So if you can see a board of the board one, that is, yeah. Crazy stuff, really crazy stuff. The move that was played last and the sacrifice, and it was declined, but just the idea was there. And we see that, yeah, Teodoro is being in this attacking spirit. So it is so shocking that he missed this win early on in the game, because he's thinking about those ideas. He is all out on attack, yet the simplest attack got missed by him.
yeah, so let's see. Board one of the tournament, Nicolas Teodoro against Suo Ren Lim. Do we have the board?
We have the live board, yeah. So as we see right now, so yeah, there was this kind of situation. He actually went for the e5, f5 idea that we mentioned that could be there, and got met by very aggressive play with the b pawn, just drawing back the pieces. And this moment is the one where the crazy attacking idea already starts. So white plays b5 to draw away the black's knight. So you see that the bishop is on b8, so it's blocking the rook. And even though, again, we don't immediately know why it's going to be bad, like there's this feeling that it's standing wrong, it's blocking the rook, and all the black pieces are here on this side of the board. And that means that there are not many defenders for the king. And in this moment, white goes for spectacular move, rook d8. This is just so crazy. So the idea is, if we do take the rook, we go queen h4. Now we are threatening the checkmate, the same checkmate that was also before with the knight and the queen. And if we do try to defend it with a move like h6, it's met by knight f7, forking the king and the queen, and the rook can still take the knight, but that means that queen is lost because this rook is not defending the queen. Wow.
Yeah, that's a beautiful geometry because the queen from one side coming all over and looking over diagonal on the queen on d8, looking over the file towards the king, so everything connects. And this is why black doesn't take a free rook, supposedly free. As we know, it wasn't that free. So that is his way of this Greek gift. Still he did go for giving something that cannot be captured. I think those are not the players, though. If we have a camera view of board one, that would be great to see. But yeah, after queen e7, he took now on f8. And is there a forced win? There has to be a win. It seems that black has like 5 pieces, and 4 of them are so far from the king. Only queen is trying to hold everything together. But is there a forced win? Is there simply some queen h4, knight h7 maybe? How do we win?
The problem is with knight h7 that we don't have a check along this diagonal, since the knight is actually blocking our bishop. And so we have to focus our attention to the pieces there. But I think the win could follow with very, very basic approach of something like rook d1 here.
And that is mean.
Rook d1 with the same threat of rook d8, using the fact that this is pinned down. And if you do play something like bishop c7 to finally connect our pieces, it could be just followed by rook d7, attacking the bishop just from this side, and we have ideas of knight e6 hitting g7, ideas of knight f7 with the follow-up tactics of knight h6, and I think that everything is falling apart.
He actually played something very similar. He just played rook d1 immediately, so before rook queen h4, which could be tricky because sometimes 8th rank will be weaker now. Knight f7 is also a threat immediately in some cases, so after queen takes, the 8th rank is weak. Black has to cover something on the 8th rank, otherwise this rook d8 is coming again. So I guess bishop c7 has to be played. What else?
Yeah, and this also keeps in mind that now we don't have moves like king g8, because the queen is still here supporting the light squares, and we actually have a move bishop b3 now as the winning idea, forcing the king back, and then we can choose if to play rook d8 or to play knight f7. Everything wins, so it's just a force, just a choice how to win. So that's why maybe it is more clever to play rook d1 immediately, and making sure that you have no other way to stop rook d8 than bishop c7, but that of course means big trouble after a move like rook d7.
Yeah, because that attacks this bishop. Bishop is undefended, and still rook is looking towards the king side. So after, let's say, rook c8, bishop c7 is on the board, and look how fast rook d7 immediately answered. That is a very logical move. Now probably rook c8 will be on the board rather quickly, unless he will play something else.
Yeah, because rook c8
knight e6
could drop a piece immediately, or we can start by this, and then knight e6, queen e8. Can we checkmate? I guess we can't checkmate immediately.
like knight g7, queen d7, queen h6, king g8 is still... But knight h5 should be winning, but maybe it's not. Probably you don't really want that.
You probably don't want to go for something so complicated when you are so dominating on the board. Yeah, but here could be just knight f7. Knight f7, and if king comes here, we can take on h6 using the spin. And if king goes to g8, now either we take on e5 or we take on h6. I'm not certain. Or we just go queen h5. Queen h5, queen g6, and then going for the checkmate. Now knight h6 is already a threat.
Small steps, just coming closer and closer. Yeah, knight h6 is a threat, and then queen coming, opening files. So usually at some point when you attack the king, you want to capture some pawns, because that way the king is becoming more exposed and our pieces can just come in and checkmate. Yeah, rook d7, that looks so winning. There is also knight f7 immediately possible. That's gonna be a very annoying check. Even somehow taking on e5, some cases can be played. So what else if not rook c8? Maybe bishop to d8. Yes, this is actually on the board. Bishop d8, that is attacking the knight, but it allows knight f7.
Knight f7, king g8,
Maybe
and
bishop b3.
And now bishop b3 could be played, yeah. Since we kept the queen there, we have to do something there with it.
And bishop b3, that is, yes, just looking towards the king, just bringing this bishop. Actually, taking on f5 is probably also, but from this side, directly looking towards the king. And now if we remove our knight, we have a discovery check. So let's say we can take the bishop on d8, and that's still not only capture, but with a check. So very difficult position for black, because they don't have a square for the king. Where could the king run away?
And if we make some simple move, we can just we can take the pawn, then we can go back, and then we can think, okay, where do we want to check next? We have this option to go back and forth, and then we can, okay, now you went there, so now we're going to take the piece, for example, on this side.
Yeah, the bishop on b7 can also be attacked. Wow, so bishop d8 is on the board. Now Theodore is thinking whether to play knight f7 check, or is there some other move like knight e6 could also be. Rook f7 maybe. Does he want rook f7? No, knight
Yeah.
f7 check. That
It's
forces
too
king to
easy.
d8.
You don't want to calculate some crazy lines when you have just an easy, straightforward way to get a winning advantage. And yeah, I think bishop b3 he's gonna play. I mean, he could play bishop f5 as well. I mean, they both are very, very winning, because after bishop f5 you still don't have any moves, even like bishop c8, because rook just takes on d8. So there's nothing to calculate, and you can just take a pawn and then in the next move go for something more, or you can go for bishop b3 immediately. Those are probably the two moves he's thinking about, because they both are winning, and he's just thinking which is more easy, more practical win in this case.
Yeah, but it seems that despite missing this chance, he's still delivering a beautiful attack and is going to win his game. Very hard to imagine that not, although it was hard to imagine he's not gonna take on h7. But there we have it. It seems to be a winning attack by the top seed of the tournament.
What would be your reaction when you find out that you missed after something like bishop h7 after you finish your game?
I would be quite embarrassed, but this is why I am tempted. If we could invite him to the studio, it would be really nice to see, I think. That we could, firsthand see the reaction.
It's very likely that his opponent is gonna tell him that, though.
Yeah, it could be. We could probably see it on the camera after the game. Players very often still discuss some crucial variations of the game. Yeah, bishop f5 was played. This could very soon finish. But yeah, we can try to get the top seed to the studio. I think we still have some time if they finish rather quickly.
Yeah, the game should finish. Like, objectively the game is over, but they are just still playing out moves because there is not like a decisive material advantage just yet. And there are not many things to... No, he resigned. He resigned
we
already.
have a resignation. And I think they just agreed to analyze the game. There is analyzing room where you can go after the game as well. Although,
Well, yeah, that's good. Yeah, he just showed bishop h7.
oh wow!
His
Let's see the reaction. Bishop h7,
He just pointed.
and he shows queen h4 possibility.
And we see the shock.
Oh, he still managed to win the game, so I guess the shock is still not... But he's thinking, he's calculating it in his mind. Indeed, somebody also pointed out on the chat that that there is this... knight g5 is a... Also, you mentioned, Toms, right? That knight g5 was probably the move he was considering first, but there was this queen h4 move. Yeah, this is our playing hall. As you see, despite having few hundred participants, it's still very spacious. There is a lot of place for them.
Yeah, because at the moment we see only half of the playing hall filled, as in the event there are some shorter tournaments. So the main event is going on for 7 days, A, B tournament and the junior tournament. But there are also other events. The one which is 4 days, one which is 3 days. So the closer to the weekend we get, the more full the playing hall is also gonna be getting there.
Yeah, I think, maybe this could be a moment for us to make a short break. Maybe we could even try to find if Top Seed would like to join us in the studio. And then we will come back either with him or just to see other decisive moments in the rounds.
So yeah, let's make a short break, and we'll be back with you after that.
Absolutely. Stay tuned and see you soon.
Welcome back to the second round of Riga Technical University Open 2024, and now we have a special guest in the studio, top seed of the tournament, Teodoro Nicolas, who won a very nice attacking game now in the second round. Very quick victory. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations. Very nice attack. But we have to ask you, I think, the most important question is about this Greek gift sacrifice that was possible in your game. Tell us about this moment because it seemed like a big moment. You also spent over 20 minutes. So, like, what were you considering and have you seen it at all?
Yeah, to be honest, I completely forgot about Queen h4 after Bishop h7, King h7, Queen h4. I only looked at Knight g5, which doesn't do much because he can just go King g6. But yeah, after the game, he told me I could have taken and gone Queen h4, so I could have ended the game much faster. But yeah, it's quite embarrassing to not see this basic tactic, but it worked out in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. It worked out. You still had a very nice attack, but how do you think? Like, how does it happen that you didn't see it? Was it because of the morning round you were considering? Did it affect you that you were not maybe as sharp as usually, or how do you think? Like, or was it just sometimes we just don't see something?
Yeah, maybe to some degree it has to do with the fact that it was a morning round, but I was also confused a bit earlier because I know that d takes e4 is wrong in this position because of Queen a4 at some point, but I wasn't sure if I have to take on c5 first or go Queen a4 right away, which was the start of my confusion. And then I kind of trusted him when he went Queen e8, but yeah, I shouldn't do this in the future probably.
Yeah, it was a tricky moment, right?
Because we joined the game exactly in this moment after Queen e8, and then we were not able to leave it because we thought you're calculating Bishop h7. You're just making sure if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times if you're not missing something that you're just about to finish the game, and it's just not happening, and we're just trying to read the facial expressions, how your opponent is trying to keep the poker face on it. So yeah, that was kind of entertaining. The main attraction of this first round so far.
Yeah, and as you mentioned after the game, you have analyzed a little bit. You discussed it with your opponent. So what did he say? Did he see it immediately?
Yeah, and well, he realized as soon as he moved. That's what he said. So should have been on the lookout, I guess, from the very beginning. I wasn't expecting to get a winning position so fast.
And later on in the game, we did not pay much attention to it. Was there, some interesting moments because.
Well, we have joined the game after Rook d8, which was still, in a way, I was saying it's still in a way a Greek gift because you still give something which cannot be captured.
Yeah.
But yeah, so maybe you can quickly talk us through this nice attack that you delivered.
Yeah, so Bishop c2 is pretty important because now he doesn't have any knight d4 tricks because the queen is always protected in a4. And yeah, e5 is logical, but it's also very weakening at the same time. So b4 makes sense. Attacking the bishop, he has to go to d6 because otherwise e5 would be hanging. And yeah, rook a d1. There's no good way to defend the bishop. Let's say rook f6, I have bishop h4 at the very least. And same with queen e7.
And bishop c7, was it still possible, or it was dropping something already?
Yeah, I thought he was going to play bishop c7, and then I would play rook fe1, and in case of f4, I can play bishop h4. He can try to trap my bishop with h6, but I also have some queen b5, queen d3, and he's not in time to trap my bishop. So yeah, bishop b8 does make some sense because he's preparing e4 so that the bishop is not hanging on c7. But at the same time it weakens the back rank as was shown in the game.
Yeah, so this was a very, very spectacular idea. So here you already saw this rook d8 idea, or when you were already going for knight g5, or it just came to you later?
To be honest, I was quite disappointed because I was expecting Queen h4 to work instead of Rook d8, because Queen h4, h6, I can go Rook d8 now and it's even stronger. But sadly, he can go Queen h4, Queen g6, and there's no direct knockout. I mean, it looks completely winning still, but...
So when you were playing knight g5, you were actually more focusing on queen h4 first, yeah?
I was hoping I would find a direct win there, but I couldn't, so Rook d8 is just technically winning. I mean, he has to take the rook, because what he did in the game is just makes my job easier.
So you think he has to play without a queen here, yeah?
Yeah, and just Queen g5 takes e4. It's obviously losing, but he can still fight on for a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a hard decision, of course, to make, to be playing without a queen. So it's understandable also that he didn't want to really do it. Yeah, but still, like, it feels like this rook d8 move is like so beautiful that it's like such a nice compensation for missing the bishop h7, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so congratulations, like really, yeah, nice start to the tournament. Yeah, yesterday you also had a relatively comfortable game, as far as we were looking at it. And how are you enjoying the tournament so far? Have you managed to see the city?
Yeah, it's actually my third time in Riga. I was here in 2013, I think, for the first time, and then again in 2019. It's one of my favorite cities, to be honest, and I really enjoyed walking in the old town. I also like the scenery, the green. So yeah, it's always a very pleasant experience playing here.
Nice, that's great to hear. So you have played before. How did it go in the previous editions? Do you hope to beat the previous results that you had here?
Hopefully, yeah, it didn't go very well in 2019, and in 2014 I think I gained some points, but I was not competing for the first places back then.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we are keeping fingers crossed for you. Good luck, one more game today, so for sure you want to take some rest, less than 3.5 hours to go. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We will let you go, and then you'll go to probably read some messages on your phone. Why didn't you play Bishop H7?
I'm sure, yeah, there will be plenty.
So we'll let you go to explain everyone how you could have missed the Greek gift. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck in the remaining rounds, and maybe we'll see you later
Thank you.
in the next rounds. And we'll go for a short break, and we will come back to you in just a moment to cover other rounds of the game too. Welcome back to the studio. We are covering the second round of the Riga Technical University Open 2024. We have just been joined by the top seed of the tournament. Always nice to see the players sharing their thoughts, and it's so nice to hear that he mentioned Riga is one of his favorite cities. So he's here one more time, already third time participating in the event. Very nice game, despite not playing this tactic. And now we should go back to the action, because there is a lot of action in the other games. So board 2, Yifan Zhuo from China is taking the second seed of the tournament, Grandmaster Kacper Piorun from Poland. And actually I think White is doing quite well. Not on the clock, though. This is quite important, because very soon time trouble could be there. But the position seems to be pretty comfortable for the Chinese player. What do you think?
Yeah, the position on the board does look very comfortable, but yeah, that's a very good point, that it does not look like a comfortable position on the clock. So maybe that means that the game is about leveled. And yeah, it's interesting that Kacper is trying, I think, to keep the game also as complicated as possible. Just wanted to point out just a few moves ago, there was a moment where White is going for a bishop exchange, trying to simplify some things. And I don't think it's in some way especially wrong or anything just to exchange those bishops, to draw away the rook, then to calmly take control of the c file, and just to play like in a casual way. But instead, Kasper chooses to, maybe influenced by the fact that opponent is low on time, just to retreat, just to keep more pieces on the board, more complications, more chances for some maybe tactical lines somewhere to out-calculate opponent because he has to be making decisions faster. And so now we have very, very double-edged, very sharp game. So White is trying to, I guess, win on the queen side, using the fact that there are two. Those pieces are there. Bishop is also looking towards it, and now also Rook is getting in the black's position with Rook c7. But in the meantime, I have a feeling that black is gonna launch a counter attack on the king side with using the f file. The bishop is gonna look to come somewhere to g4 after we exchange, maybe here, then bishop g4 ideas. Already looking at the king, could be in the air, and also in the air I think are some ideas still to include the bishop h6. Bishop h6, getting the bishop in the game, then the knight could join an attack, and like all of a sudden like it's... Yeah, everything is there, but if it doesn't work, then White is just gonna collect those pawns and win the game, thanks to the extra passed pawns on the queen side. So that is very, very direct position, very like concrete lines that you have to calculate, and and if you miscalculate somewhere, you're just lost from both sides, I think.
Yeah, and that is this typical position in King's Indian structures. It's a very famous opening, probably the most famous chess player, except Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura. He used to play it so much. I think he still does. The most famous streamer as well. So those types of positions, they promise so much exciting game attacks. And yeah, this is what black is doing. Black is always trying to attack on the king side. White is dominating on the queen side. And usually it seems that white is faster. On the other hand, white has a little bit more to lose because black is attacking the king, so it's directly going for the checkmate. So this is a very exciting game. Bishop h6 has just been played. That is a very common idea to activate this bishop because, as you see, before it was staring in the pawn, now it is attacking the queen. It's on the open diagonal, so it has a lot of access. Maybe knight is gonna come to g5 and attacking the pawn on f3, on e4, a lot of targets. Queen is also opening up. It felt just a second ago that black's pieces are all cramped, but after knight g5, the queen is also activating on the f file. Yeah, a lot of interesting possibilities for black. And just to remind you one more time, Kasper Piorun with the black pieces, he is a solving world champion. Solving exercises, I don't know if you have ever seen them. Those are not just chess puzzles. They are so full of creative ideas, of imagination. So he might be really strong in this position because it will require some very, as Tom said, very direct approach, but yeah, also creativity, bravery, imagination. So now he's activating his pieces, and on this time that we see on the clock, he is on 31 minutes against 6 minutes. I think despite the fact that objectively this position could be even better for white, I think he is doing quite well.
I actually think that black is doing very well here. Now, this bishop on f1, I think, is the main problem, the main drawback in the white's position, because not only it has weakened the king, has made sure that this diagonal is not really covered, but also what is happening is that we don't have any moves like rook f1 available whatsoever. So we are very, very slow in defense, and that's why I think that also white chooses now to play bishop e3, just at least that there is not all out attack, that we have some defenders or less attackers maybe, if not only some defenders in the position. So yeah, I really like the chances for black here, but of course it is gonna come down to very, very direct calculation.
But yeah, when we just look at the body language of Kasper Piorun, he seems to be so unhappy. If you just focus on that without looking at the board, you could be thinking that he just blundered, right? But yeah, he is a very expressive player. I think we'll see throughout this whole week. Just to remind you, we are here whole 1 week. So the tournament is a very long one. And probably we are gonna see Kacper a lot, but yeah, he seems to be. Maybe he didn't exactly focus on this move, bishop e3, or he is just so much in that position.
Yeah, it is hard to say because we saw the similar body language also yesterday when he was just comfortable one pawn up and he was just calculating some lines and yeah, it was the same kind of expressions that you could think that he's not happy with the position, but I don't think it was the case yesterday. Just judging from how good was his position, so it could be that also like maybe he's like gets excited on some one line and it doesn't work, so he has to start again to calculate some other line, and maybe that's what causes this kind of reactions. So.
It's a reverse poker face, right? Because he is, and no matter what the position is, you can't expect exactly what is he happy or is he not happy. F4 is on the board, immediately captured by the Chinese player with the g-pawn. Now probably pawn takes on f4. No, something else would bishop g4.
Oh wow, here we go.
Oh,
so
my
now,
goodness.
after f4, you cannot retreat with the bishop, because otherwise it will be followed by fg, discovered attack on the queen, losing the pawn, so you're forced to take, and now bishop g4, this is what we are talking about. Yeah, like, white's position, it looks wrong. With the bishop on f1, king on h1, it just seems like there is no coordination with the pieces, and here he exploits it immediately.
What a move, but look, he's putting the bishop under attack. Pawn could just take the bishop, but that's the idea, that now, after moving the bishop, the rook is attacking opponent's rook. So suddenly we have so many attacks. Yeah, this is what I was mentioning. He is a very creative player. He sees those ideas by being such a good solving player, I guess you say. He just has such a developed imagination, and seeing those tactical geometrical ideas quickly, kind of like his second nature already at this point. So bishop g4, let's see, has white missed it? Now he has to also be very careful about the clock, only 6 minutes, so he cannot afford to spend too much time. I mean, he has to do something about the rooks, right? But if he takes on e7, bishop f3 is a check, probably bishop g2 follows.
And there's an exchange on g2, let's say, and now we recapture back on e7, and now clearly all the better pieces are for black. The knight on b4 is completely out of the game, and the king is weak. This is the very, very important thing. The king is just weak. It just has no defenders, and even though if there is no immediate threats or anything, then the problems could come. So now this is a threat again, to take on f4 and take on e4, so we can't play such a move like knight d3. Knight d3 would be a natural move to want to play, because it brings the knight back in the game, but we can't do that. So we need to do something else. I don't know. If we do some move like rook e1, we can be forced with facing problems like rook c8, rook coming into the open file, and yeah, I think black is doing very, very, very well here. So this is actually what we have on the board. Rook a7 is played, bishop f3, because I guess there was not much choice, but...
Now I think bishop g2 is also very almost automatic. Probably we'll see it shortly on the board.
Because we don't want this bishop to stand there and attack everything and cut off the squares from the king, and our bishop on f1 anyways is not doing anything, so the best use of this bishop is to get rid of black's bishop in this position.
Yes, absolutely. Just exchange it. Bishop from black bishop is attacking. Our bishop is just standing, kind of trying to defend. So it's a passive piece, so it makes sense to just swap those two. Yes, we have bishop g2 on the board. We'll see capture, because black has to capture with a check to take this rook on e7 that is hanging. And now white could theoretically take with the queen, but that leaves bishop undefended on e3 under the spin, so it's a bit unpleasant. But maybe... No, this...
Yeah, because now at least our pawn on e4 is protected, so perhaps we can get knight back in the game in this scenario. But anyways, I am not liking the chances. Even if we take a very, very simple approach here from the black side, if we get the knight on e5, I think it automatically puts black in a better position. But we could also exploit the pin to keep the tension and just first take, for example, an open file or something, or start attacking on the e4 pawn, and only then later on capture on f4. Because anyways, we cannot move this pawn in any way, as the bishop on e3 is gonna be hanging.
Yeah, it seems to be basically what you want as black. So this, I think, is very promising for the Polish player. And of course, to join Nicolas, who was here in the studio, on this shared lead with 2 out of 2. It's still very early in the event. We have 9 rounds to go in the whole tournament. This is round number 2. So of course, there is a lot of action still in the upcoming days. But those players who want to fight for the first place, they really want to win in those early rounds.
Yeah, and it's also very important when you have a double round. It's extra important to win quickly, because you have time to eat lunch and prepare for the game. Because when you play a long game, then very often you're faced with a dilemma. Do I prepare for the game more, or do I get a good lunch? Because there is not time for both. And if you get a quick win, you get this exclusive option to get both preparation and a good lunch.
And it's a really difficult choice, right? I mean,
it's a horrible choice.
How do you choose? I guess you gotta go with a good lunch, but it's really difficult because, of course, you can. In those open tournaments, a lot of players are very ambitious and they want to prepare, and the preparation factor not always will be a decisive one, but sometimes it can put you in a very unpleasant position early on in the game, so it can be very important to get this prep against your opponent. Checking what do they play, checking their games in the database, checking their online games as well. Nowadays, it's a very important factor. So let's see. I do think they want to win quickly, of course. Queen g2 is on the board. Queen e7 played. Just seems that the position for black is very promising. Most likely, this e4 pawn is a big target, but it's far from over.
Yeah, it's far from over, but it is just an unpleasant, ugly position to play, but it's not over. Not over at all. And now I think Kasper is going to take his time and think on where to push. C-file or e4 pawn or just e5 square. So all those things now, it's a good moment to consider. Also move like queen h4 is a possibility. Just bringing the queen over and attacking on f4, which is also could be unpleasant. So yeah, a lot of things to think about in this moment, but I think that it's a great situation. 30 minutes against 4 minutes, better position. Okay, he seems to be ready to make a move. At least the hand was already reaching, so he feels like he doesn't need to think about things too much here.
It could be, but we probably should go and see other games. On the board, number 3, actually, I think we have an equal position. So, Grandmaster Eldey Safarli, 2600 as well, facing international master from India, Sai Agni Jivitesh. Despite a rating difference of over 300 points, it feels that black is creating quite a big trouble, but I am not sure. It's very complicated despite the fact that we have only queens and knights on the board, but those are the trickiest pieces that we have in chess. So let's take a look. Is it gonna be some perpetual check? Now queen e6 joined, so we don't know. Yeah, so let's try to see. This is board number 3. Let's see the live board and the camera feed from the players on the 3rd board. Yeah, what do you think, Toms? What is happening in this one?
I think black has to be completely safe here, since we have 2 pawns extra on the king side. We have a queen just staring down at the opponent's king, and our own king is very safe. So it does look like if somebody can be in trouble, then it can be only white here. At least that would be my feeling. But
because yeah, if we calculate the material, now black has 1 extra pawn. White can capture with the knight on c6, but that just equalizes, and yeah, it's such a strange position. White has 1 pawn by the king. Black has 3 pawns by the king. That should mean that black's king is a little bit better guarded. There are more guys, just more little defenders of the king.
But it also, since the pawns are on different sides of the board, it is very possible to reach some sort of position when there is a pawn race. Let's say we get rid of the queens, and then we have a complicated endgame where the question is not if somebody is going to promote, but who is going to be the first one. Because when two pawns are running, it's most likely that there will be some promotion to the queen, that they will reach the last rank. And queen e7, that's what I wanted to also mention, that this is a possibility. Instead of knight takes c6, we can take the f6 pawn, since knight f7 is not possible due to knight e6, drawing the king away and then winning the knight on f7. So now we have to play probably king h6 here.
Yeah, but here black probably never wants to exchange queens, because this should favor white, the knight endgame, considering the fact that kings are far away from the queen side, and white has more pawns on the other side of the board, so those pawns far away from the kings could run actually faster. So now after queen f6, unless some queen f8, no, probably he's just gonna capture.
Yeah, so there is only one check if we start checking, so it's not probably a good idea, but we can play some moves like knight e4, asking some direct questions. And if move like queen f3 is played, then there is a big question: do we want to allow queen trade or no? Most likely no, but maybe it's not that bad. Yeah, that is a hard question in these kind of positions, because we can protect the pawn with c5, and if knight is to come to attacking it, we can also go for some counter attacks ourselves for the pawns, and or from d1 attacking both of those, and then later on a4. So it's a lot of captures, a lot of knight checks, and it's usually the most crazy endgames can happen exactly with the knights on the board, because they can all of a sudden, like, they're slow, but then with some checks they actually become very fast.
Yeah, they are nightmare. Little nightmares. Very complicated endgames, because oftentimes people say knight endgames are very similar to pawn endgames, but I never understood that, because those knights are jumping so much, they create so much tactical possibilities that I think they're just very difficult to evaluate, because you have to sometimes calculate so far those possible knight jumps and exchanges, and at the end you have to know, okay, so what comes out of this, and it's so difficult. So I think it's very risky for black to exchange queens. I would say it's more risky for black again, because white has more pawns on the queen side, and so they could be looking for a passed pawn there, where you have more pawns, you want to create passed pawn which can queen, and kings are really far from there, so black king is very far from stopping those pawns. Now king h6 was just played, white is still thinking, but yeah, LDA, he is on 20 minutes versus 10 minutes, right? So both of them have quite a lot of time to still make decisions. So it makes sense to take a moment.
I actually think that here c5 could be a very, very strong candidate move right now, because it asks some complicated questions to this knight.
If you after knight e6?
Yeah, but then after knight e6 you are no longer running for...
And queen f4 is a possibility.
Yeah, but this is what I wanted to point out, that now the knight is not going for the a7 pawn. This is comfortably defended, and we have to remember that this is an endgame. And in an endgame, very often the dominating side has the better king's position, and here black can very quickly bring over the king to the center, while the white's king is still on g1 and actually very, very slow to join the game. So I would actually prefer to already black's position, because my pawns are not going to be that slow, and with my king coming to f5 and being in the center of the board, I don't think there's any scenario that I'm ever worse here. So I don't think that queen f4 would be dangerous, but there are some different issues, like queen g7 probably, and queen h7 and queen g6, which is a bit unpleasant. So actually knight e4 might not work, and we might need to play knight f5 here. But still I really like the idea to ask this knight question directly. Where does it go? And even though you can take the pawn in this scenario, you have to watch out for the king's safety. So let's say we go for knight takes c5, but this can become just also double-edged, because king on g1 is very, very lonely, as white's pieces are far away, and some crazy mating ideas could just come there. Like here, check, asking a check. Again, where the king is going. King has to, let's say, retreat backwards. And now maybe even something like king g4 could be tricky because they are stuck. They are stuck and they can't come and help out.
Yeah, so it's still a very rich position despite such a limited material. Most likely, it's if depending basically on how the players approach this game. It could end in a draw, it could end in some mess, but I think we should take a look at the game of Laura Rogula, who is playing against Kaido Kulout, and it looks very exciting. This is one of the top female players in the tournament, the best Latvian female player, who is a 13-time Latvian champion, one of the records probably in the world. I'm sure it's not a very record, but that's just incredible achievement. And she has just sacked her knight.
So that is board 11, Laura Rogula against Kaido Kulots.
Yeah, she just sacked her knight on g7, bringing the queen over to the king. Let's see the position. Yeah, very exciting, I think, to see. I think also, the local fans, it's always great to see Laura play. She tends to create some very interesting positions on the board. Also against you had some games against Laura. She's a very tricky player. She's not scared of Grandmasters, which is always great to see for me. And this position is a mess.
Yeah, so the reason why White can positionally sacrifice, positionally, but like sacrifice and go for slow attack, is because Black's pieces are far away. These two are not participating in defense of the king in any way, also the rook from a8, so White can afford to just try to bring more pieces in, and when it comes to just attacking the king, it just matters how many pieces are attacking and how many can defend, and it doesn't matter who is sitting on the other side of the board and maybe attacking some pawn or just controlling some square. And now, yeah, she removed the defender from g7, the pawn, and now bringing over the queen and just looking, I guess, for the idea of queen h6, and no, first, of course, we are attacking on f7. That is the first thing, and Black has to decide how to defend it. But the next step could be, let's say we go rook e7, that we try to bring the knight around to f6 and put a big pressure on h7 square, because we have a bishop attacking there as well, and it's not that easy to stop it because we can't make. Okay, we can go with the other knight actually to d7 back.
But there are also ideas of rook f3 and rook h3, right? Which could be tried to bring another piece to the game. And it's just not easy for Black, even though Black has an extra piece. It's just not so easy for Black to find like very good squares to use the advantage of the piece.
Yeah, and also in these positions it is important to note that pawns can be as valuable as pieces when it comes to attacking, and it's an attacking piece, a pawn as well, and in this case even if knight d7 would not work because suddenly the pawn joins the game and we are checkmating on g7, which cannot be stopped in any way because rook is attacked, and even if knight would go away we have a checkmate just from this side. So yeah, the position is very, very tricky, and both players are low on time, so that makes it extra hard, I think, to make the correct decisions, because one mini miscalculation can mean the end of the game for Black, and I think for a few moves at least White has very, very easy moves.
I think it could even be winning for Laura. You see the time, it's only 1 minute for her, but she is actually very prone to time trouble. She basically in every game after 20 moves is very low on time, but she can play extremely strong even on such a low time. We have been teammates for a couple of years in Riga Technical University team, just like the tournament. So we have also played together with her, and she can really, even on such a low time, perform extremely strong. So it's a concern, but I wouldn't say it's such a big concern like in case of other players. And this position looks just extremely difficult practically for Black. I think Kaido Kulouts is in trouble here.
It could be. It.
How do you defend? What do you think is the most natural move? Knight g6?
Knight g6 is a very natural move here, and
But can we still play knight f7?
but maybe we can still play knight f7. Yes, since we are not able to
Sacrificing
take.
another knight, but now we are just cleaning all of the pawns, so there is no pawn defense by the king. We are winning the knight on g6. King f8 is the only move. Then we pick up this knight, and as Thomas mentioned, the pawns can be very strong attacking pieces, so soon we can even push our pawns forward and attack or even queen them. This looks very bad.
So, yeah, but here we don't need to take. Of course, we can play moves like queen e7. And then the question is, can we strengthen the attack in any way?
Maybe queen h6. It's such a
h6
put on
here,
the tempo.
and then we
I
take on
don't-
g6 perhaps.
Yeah. There is queen e3 check, but I think we are still safe there as white.
Yeah, we can even play moves like king h1, king g2, because we have a rook to cover from the checks. Yeah, it does look great. It does look great for white here. So the knight g6 is probably not working. As we saw, rook e7 is also not very advisable decision. So how do we defend? Wow. Okay, this could... Oh, but we can take on e5. We can take on e5. So then we have pawn takes, trying to open up this bishop. And perhaps now it's a good moment for black to play moves like d4. To have some counter game of their own, just in case that we have pieces working.
But bishop takes. Huh.
Bishop
Very
takes.
interesting
And now
position.
perhaps... Does that work or is it losing? e6, that I guess is losing, since we don't have where to go and queen f7 is a checkmate.
Beautiful e6 move to open the bishop. One more piece is attacking the king, and now it's a checkmate. And again, the pawn is helping. It's doing actually a crucial job to deliver this checkmate. So unpleasant, and this is why we see Estonian Grandmaster. Now he's thinking, he's down to 5 minutes, and he's trying to figure out what to do, because queen h5 is just threatening to take pawn on f7. There are some checkmates incoming, and he just has to find a way.
And wondering, how do we evaluate this position? After rook e6, right now.
That's a funny move, just blocking. And can white just remove the bishop and just prepare f5?
Because I have my mating ideas as well of queen d5. So that is my thinking, that I just need to slow down white's attack. And now I have also very, very powerful bishop of my own ready to play. Do we want to take it? Do we not want to take it? Do we want to play just moves like rook d1? For example, these kind of positions.
And he just took. So he did take the knight, as you suggested. This knight was so strong, attacking everything, so he just wants to take it off the board.
Yeah, the knight is a very big attacker in different ways, and the bishop, the only way how bishop is joining the defense is by being able to take something from the opponent, because it can't cover anything. So it is a very, very natural move to consider, just to use your piece. The piece's defensive ability is to remove opponent's attacker. And so, as it's his only defensive ability, then it's a good idea to take it. And oh wow, she took with pawn f.
Okay, that is not what we were expecting, because it makes sense to try to open this bishop from b2, but maybe she saw that it can be blocked, and maybe she's sometimes thinking to go bishop a3 and attack this knight on f8. You know what you just said, that sometimes piece can be exchanged for an attacker, but we can try to exchange our bishop for the defender as well.
Yeah, perhaps, and maybe she just wants the rooks to join the game much more quickly, and it could be that she calculated that now those two pieces for sure stay out of the game, and she has time to bring over the rooks, but it requires very precise calculation, which I'm sure she did way more than we did, because intuitively it would feel like a wrong move. But yeah, this position is not about the intuition, it's about delivering the checkmate and just calculating where it is and where it's not. So
I couldn't stop myself. And I checked the engine in this position. Engine says f takes e5 is way stronger than d takes e5. So kudos to Laura, because it's a very human move to take with the d pawn, because you open this bishop more, it gets closer to the king, and engine says after f takes e5, objectively it is winning position for white.
Oh wow, that is amazing, very very impressive, very amazing, and yeah, will be fun to see if she manages to win the game, or how actually Kaido here manages to still complicate it a little bit, because he needs some defensive resource. Now it's a very big threat, just bishop takes h7 and rook f7 checkmate.
And he's also really low on time, down to 3 minutes. He played rook e7 to defend his f7 pawn, which was very sensitive, But now maybe this bishop a3 is a move, attacking the rook, looking toward the knight. I think this is a very powerful move to join the piece. Yes, we have it on the board, bishop a3. I really like this little look that Laura gave to Kaido Colaut's.
I think he's planning to give up the rook. He's gonna play some move like bishop c8 right now.
I think he has to.
And just gonna the pieces join the game and trying to survive it. And yeah, even if it's worse now, then if he's not getting checkmated, he has chances in a later game.
But there is queen h6 check, and after bishop takes e7, knight on b6 also drops.
Oh wow, knight on b6 is hanging.
So
Okay.
that is too much material. That is too much. He could give the rook for the bishop. That is just exchange, and he has taken the knight on g7. So, but if he loses the knight on b6 as well, I don't think he can afford this. Queen h6 is also there, looking actually all the way through the board to the other side at this knight on b6. So the queen now on d8 is defending both rook and the knight. It's very important. He played the knight to g6. Okay, that way queen h6 will not attack the knight.
Yeah, but this is looking very very dangerous. Very good for white. And now just if only we could bring this rook over somewhere to f6 from a1, it would be game over. Just to get more pieces. Maybe we should start by rook f3. What do you think? Just rook f3 with double idea. One idea is rook f1. Another idea is rook h3, using the fact that there's no comfortable way to defend the h7 pawn.
Yeah, I really like this move because, and we have it on the board. Or rook f4. Wait, she went rook f4. Okay, very similar idea. I'm not sure if you need rook on f4. Does it really give you anything additional? Because sometimes knight could probably take. Not in this position. Still, it's the similar thing that Tom's was mentioning. We can bring the last piece to the game, the rook from a1 that is still not engaged in the attack. And we can also switch to the h-file. Maybe she's thinking that sometimes she will put both rooks on the h-file. Who knows?
Yeah, because I have a feeling like sometimes it could backfire that we actually lose the ability to play rook h4 because, let's say, if somewhere bishop c8 happens or something and we lose the control of the h7 attacking, then Oh, or her idea is, in case of something like bishop c8, that let's say this is to happen, now bishop is not controlling h3 and we actually can deliver a checkmate with rook h4.
Okay, so maybe she spotted that sometimes h3 square could be covered. But this is a really exciting attack. Come on, we could have a huge upset here. Yesterday we had one very big upset where player 2130 won against opponent 2588. And here we also have a very big rating difference. Not as big, but still around 250 points. Something was played. Actually, bishop c8 is on the board, that move you mentioned. Is there a checkmate?
It feels like it should be, because we cannot take with the f pawn, I think, because we have a big control of that square, right? And this should be just over. Although...
Maybe still not. King g8, rook f1, bishop f5 somewhere, but again
Yeah, but this is gonna be over. And oh, bishop f5.
Bishop f5, but then again we could take the bishop, g takes, we take on e7, take on b6, but I guess it's still not game over. Somehow queen h6 is on the board. Laura played there first. King g8. Now she can take on g6, but maybe she can just first play Maybe she's able to play first rook f1 and still wait with taking on g6.
Yeah, but then we lose the ability to take on g6 because bishop takes f5 is going to happen.
And bishop f5, and I guess, but okay, let's see.
Yeah. So rook f1, bishop f5, and yeah, here we have threats. Also, rook takes f7 to end checkmating with the queen and the bishop simply. It should be enough as well with the help of all the pawns.
But she took on g6. This game could be over very soon, but maybe there's still some defense.
Bishop g6. Now, I mean, he has to take with the pawn f because this is just a checkmate. I think this is just a checkmate, so he has no choice. He just has to take with the f pawn and then try bishop f5. There's no better way probably. This could happen on the board, and now the question is if there is a winning blow or no in this position.
Yeah, and just to update you while we are waiting for the players, most of the games in the top already finished. Of course, the crucial game of the round on the first board, Nicolas Teodorou, the top seed of the tournament, he won with a very nice attack, very nice miss there as well, so very interesting game. And he was here in the studio, so you can still probably wind back and see it. Paulus Pultinevich has won his game. Most of the leaders seems to be winning the games. Thomas Laurusha has won his game. Zheng Chongsheng won the game. Gergely Antal as well. We had a draw. Actually, another female player on board number 8. She managed to make a draw. So Josephine Heinemann, she drew her game against Peter Prohashka. So this is one of the upsets on the top boards. Then we had another Grandmaster won his game on board number 9, and still a couple of games going, but this seems to be the most likely upset. Still looking at this position, it feels like white should have something. Other than that, the leaders still prove that the rating matters and win majority of their games.
So here, I think this is very likely to happen, and then we are gonna see this. And what is happening with this position? And now King G2, with the threat of Rook G1, and also all sorts of threats like Queen E6 and so on. So I think King H8 should have to be played here, and it has to be winning for white. In my understanding, it has to be a winning advantage. Just the question is, do we manage in time? So let's say Rook G1.
I think Rook G1.
We cannot take on E3 because Queen F6 is going to be a checkmate. So Queen
H4 isn't there? Queen H4.
Queen H4
and
still
black
is a move.
wants to go Queen E4 sometimes, although we still do not manage. We have Rook F5 on the board. Let's still see.
And Laura is doing all her moves in less than 10 seconds. Now Zen did with 10 seconds, previous more with 7 seconds.
She doesn't have time though. She has to be really quick. Her time is running out, but yes, she is playing really quickly. We are going to stay with this game for a couple minutes since this could be the biggest upset of the round.
Yeah, but here it's not that easy in this position also, because very quickly we could get a counterattack of Rook G8, and all the endgames like this, no, here Rook could come to G5. Oh, but perhaps then in this position immediately we can force it to the Rook endgame. Although we have to watch out from the pawn on C. The C pawn is very strong, protected pass pawn, and yeah, this is what's happening on the board.
Yeah, we have it, but Queen G5 is there, and it is, I think, very impressive defense by the Estonian Grandmaster. This is why it's so difficult to win them. They find those defenses. I wonder if this is still winning. It must have been winning. Is it after Queen G5?
If there is not a clear win in the next two moves, yeah, then I think that something was missed. Like the position looked dominating, but now we are out of pieces, and black has a strong pawn on c4, we have a strong pawn on e5, both kings are weak, and what is the material situation after we take on g5? It's also equal. So yeah, it is... yeah, Yeah, unless there is something that we're missing, how to activate all the white pieces or get some very great endgame, then it should be that the worst is behind. Also, Laura was shaking her head. She is not satisfied with the position, how it's played out.
Yeah, because usually in those moments you want to deliver something. You don't want to go and again slowly be playing the maybe end game after the queen exchange or something else. It felt like there should have been a winning attack. Maybe she also miscalculated something. So we'll see how this game is gonna go. And now we are going to be slowly finishing the coverage of round 2. For now, we will sum it up quickly and we will be back for the third round of the tournament. The second round of today is going to be held in the afternoon of the local time. So in a little bit more than 3 hours, we will be back. Toms, how would you sum up this game, this round?
Yeah, it's just getting more and more exciting. Like the chess was really fun. We had some very, very unexpected stuff, very exciting stuff. Also, maybe thanks to it being a morning round, players missing some funny tactics, but also delivering some very strong tactics. And yeah, I think that it's still in the warm-up stage. The whole event is in the warm-up stage, and it's just gonna get better and better. And so certainly have to follow closely the event. That's what I can say. Just not to miss any of the follow-up rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for me always great to see that we have, such a wide range of players here from different countries, different titles, 150 title players in the tournament. That's just incredible. And that means that so many people here, they have really big class in terms of their chess level. So they can cause upsets even though they are playing against Grandmasters, such a high-rated opposition. But yeah, we have those upsets even though the rating differences are so high. So yeah, make sure to tune back in for the remaining rounds.
So the next round is gonna be in 2.5 hours at 5 p.m. Riga time, and we are gonna start our coverage 1 hour after the start of the round. So we will be with you starting from 6 p.m. Riga time or 5 p.m. Central European time.
Yes, absolutely. And this is the last look at the players. Couple of games are still going on. We will sum it up at the beginning of the next round. And yeah, thank you everyone for the following this second round. We hope you enjoyed the broadcast. It was really great to have a top seed of the event here in the studio. So make sure to tune in later. Thank you so much, Toms. Thanks as well. And see you soon for the third round of the Riga Technical University Open 2024.
Yeah, see you soon.